Do you know who the richest man in the world is right now? Bill Gates? Warren Buffett? Maybe some sheik in Saudi Arabia? What if I told you that the richest man in the world is from Mexico?
The fact remains, he is the wealthiest man in the world in a country with a GDP per capita of less than $8,000 a year.
This is Carlos Slim, the richest man in the world. A man who controls upwards of 7% of the entire Mexican economy, and a man credited by many for the sad state of that country's economic recovery. If you listen to Carlos Slim tell it, you might think his fortune began when he started investing as a mere teenager. The real story is far less romantic. It's 1982, and Mexico's economy is in turmoil. The Bank of Mexico is nationalized. This radical move puts fear into the Mexican corporate world. Carlos Slim seizes on the fear and unrest, convincing business people to sell him their companies at a fraction of their actual worth. Throughout the 80s, Slim gobbles up corporations across a wide spectrum of businesses that included finance, tobacco, sugar, rubber, copper, and aluminum. Aggressive as this acquisition tactic is, it merely sets the stage for Slim's coup de grace. By 1990, the World Bank and the IMF are pressuring the Mexican government to privatize hundreds of businesses that were seized in the 80s. Bowing to the pressure, then President Carlos Salinas found in his very good friend Carlos Slim a willing buyer of the country's telecommunications industry, Telmex. Despite being valued at more than $10 billion, Slim was inexplicably given the telephone monopoly for just $1.7. Telmex, and now América Móvil, the cellular arm of this massive company, control the vast majority of the telephone and internet service in Mexico. This allows Carlos Slim to set the price, and with the government seemingly in his hip pocket, it allows Slim to squash all competition. According to a number of recent reports, Mexicans are being overcharged nearly $14 billion per year for service.
At the same time, he has, and his competitors will say that, consistently blocked competition, taken his competitors to the courts, and has entangled his competitors in the business world for years.
Raimundo Riva Palacio, a veteran journalist in Mexico City, said that after he wrote a column in El Universal newspaper in 2006 condemning Mr. Slim as a monopolist, a Slim advisor threatened to remove newspaper ads from his company. That is no small threat. Mr. Slim's holdings are so vast that he controls a large chunk of all advertising countrywide.
This is a fact that Carlos Slim bristles at, as seen in this recent Euronews interview.
What about this telecom monopoly that you have in your country? Many detractors say that it's because of this that the prices are high and this stifles competition. And now even the government regulators have tried to fine your companies. Do you think it's time to open up to a level playing field?
Well, you begin making a bad question. You said monopoly it means only one.
Well, you own 80% of landline and 70% of cell phone.
You know the landline, the fixed lines are not important for the economy. First, it's not a monopoly. They are competitors, and they have been a lot of competitors. Second, if you look the list of Merrill Lynch Bank of America of pricing, you will see that we are near the lowest of the OECD.
Well, they say the opposite.
No, but I don't know who say that.
The World Bank and the OECD.
No. You need to look the real facts.
In looking at the real facts, it is clear that Slim's company charges among the highest rates in the developing world for a product that, by all accounts, is substandard. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the multi-country forum known as the OECD, is one of the most respected voices in the world on economic policy. They examine Carlos Slim's telecommunications monopoly. They show that his rates are higher and his quality is worse than in almost any other developing country. And as the Mexican people have been overcharged and underserved through Slim's telephone monopoly, the extreme profits he has made from that service have allowed Carlos Slim to continue to gobble up even more companies. His appetite is no longer limited to just in Mexico and Latin America. He's here, in the U.S. as well. Bakeries to railroads, Sears and Roebuck to the New York Times. The reach of the richest man in the world continues to expand. His control over your life becomes more and more profound, all while his own country suffers in poverty. And how does Carlos Slim view Mexico's poor?
Is it hard for you to see all the poverty in Mexico?
It's hard, but I am convinced that all this poverty in Mexico and in Latin America, like it's happening in China, is the opportunity to grow.
That's right, an opportunity to grow at the expense of the poor, at the cost of all competition, and with the price tag of an entire country's economy. And what is the government doing about this? Watch as President Calderon squirms through this Bloomberg television interview.
Does Carlos Slim, does he represent the kind of monopolistic practices that you're trying to go after?
Well, I think it's very sensitive. Even his name is very sensitive for a lot of people.
Are you sure you don't want to say it now on air? Here's your opportunity. Carlos Slim, is that the kind of anti-competitive practices that you want to target?
I think that the enterprises in which he used to participate are very big enterprises with a lot of good practices, but also we have a market in which we need to fix a lot of oligopolics or monopolic behavior, including some in telecommunications sector. I really respect Carlos Slim or any other Mexican enterprise, but at the same time, I am the authority and I need to regulate the market in order to avoid monopolistic practices.
But so what if Carlos Slim is monopolistic? So what if the government is afraid of him? So what if the Mexican people pay more for phone, internet, and other services? You see, Carlos Slim's business practices on the surface may appear to be just business, just one guy getting rich. And the criticisms of him may even come across as a kind of sour grapes attitude. But the impact of what he has done in Mexico and in the region cannot be understated. According to the careful examination of well-respected economists around the globe, Carlos Slim has single-handedly slowed Mexico's economic growth. He is responsible, at least in part, for Mexico's high jobless rate and high poverty rate. And, by extension, Carlos Slim is also responsible for all of the things in Mexico that go along with poverty and joblessness. And what does the richest man in the world have to say for himself?
But you speak about governments, but you as a big private investor, do you feel at all responsible for this crisis?
Not at all.
And so it is with Carlos Slim, a man so rich he can't see beyond his piles of cash.